please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, let's get straight to some primary market action then. Lemon Tree's hotel IPO opens up today. Mangalam's here to give us details about the issue and the company as well. Mangalam, over to you.
Well, Nigel, it's a 1,000 crore IPO, which is an offer for sale entirely by Warburg Pincus and a few existing earlier investors. None of them are the promoters of the company. However, tell you what, they're seeking a market cap of close to 4,400s at the higher end of issue price, which is 56 rupees. So we need to watch out for how much of it is in the table, because this is India's largest hotel in the mid-economy segment, and they have close to around 4,700 rooms with an expansion plan of close to 3,000 rooms over the next 3 years as well. So it is the leading brand. That is one of the key strengths. Another thing, the industry dynamics are strong. And third, they have higher margins, EBITDA margins than most peers. However, the concerns, the first one, the IPO is only an OFS, so no fresh money going into the company to fund their capex. And capex over the next few years will hurt the company's leverage. The debt as of 9 months of FY18 stands at 932 crore rupees, and the company had spoken to us, said that they will fund the 1,700 crore worth capex going forward, partly with debt as well. They just started to make profits in this fiscal after a 4-year hiatus on the bottom line, and in terms of valuations, they're offered at 40 times EV to EBITDA, much higher than the other peers. So from a long-term perspective, strong company, but not much value left on the table. And let's also hear out what the management had to say about their capex plans going forward.
We have about 4,700 rooms which are operating, and we are adding another 3,000 rooms in the next 3 years. And of these 3,000 new rooms, 1,600 are owned by us. Now, the investment is 1,700 crores in these 1,600 new rooms. We have already invested 700 crores. The balance will be made up a little bit with debt and the balance with internal accruals. And at this moment, we don't need any further money in the company in terms of a primary issue. We are fully funded for this growth. And we don't see any strain on the balance sheet either with the debt that we have on our books.
Okay, speaking about primary market, the 4,000 crore ICICI Securities IPO will also be closing today, and up until now they've received subscription of close to about 0.6 times. But let's get you some more corporate voices on the show now. We spoke to Pawan Goenka of Mahindra & Mahindra, where he gives the road ahead for the company and says that the company is stepping in FY19 without any major headwinds. Listen in.
Overall, I don't expect a significant risk to profitability unless we have some major negative surprise. We are going into the year with almost no headwinds. The agriculture output has been good, the MSP prices have been good, the government's focus on agri and rural development is unmissed and absolutely very high. And normally, and as you said, that the very first indication of monsoon also is positive. GST is all settled in. So I really don't see any reason why we should have a negative growth during this year. A lot of the selling of electric vehicles will happen on tender basis, ESL tender. And on tender basis, as you know, that there is severe competition. So I think that we are over the situation of having to have a variable cost loss. And as we move forward, I would expect to start seeing a little bit, very small margin coming into a variable cost level. And as volumes go up, and then we would see overall profitability. But I would say that at an overall profitability level, it will take a couple, 3 years before we can start seeing sort of positive based on the volume growth that we are going to see. In the last 2 years, SUVs have significantly outperformed the passenger car segment, and today constitute 28–29% of the total passenger vehicle volume comes from SUVs, which perhaps is amongst the highest in the world. For Mahindra, we have, like you said, two major launches coming up, and also G4 Exton from SsangYong coming in as a high-end SUV. And therefore, we have 3 launches that will happen of new products during this year.
Well, some important clarification flashing for you on the screen in terms of what Sajjan Jindal is saying, his plans in terms of whether or not he can bid for SR Steel, and whether or not he's going to back any of the current bidders. Let's cut across. He's addressing the media.
In the expression of interest in the first time, and because at that time we were busy with Bhushan Steel and other companies. now that because we don't have, we cannot acquire all the steel assets. So we had identified Bhushan Steel as the prime asset, but Tata outbidded us, which is fair. So in this case, we wanted to re-enter, and we wanted to give a very good competition to, and the creditors would get more money if we were involved. But unfortunately, because they felt that if we were given an opportunity, then they will have to advertise it in the newspapers, and they have to call for the bids again, and people may ask for data room to be open. So we gave it in writing to the COC that we don't need any time, and we are willing to participate as is basis, and whatever information we have, we are willing to. But they did not, in their let's say their own discretion and in their thought process, they thought that they don't want to give a new entrant a chance. So they did not allow us, which is okay for us. I mean, if they don't want more money, then it's up to them. It's a public money after all. We were willing to participate and give a good fight. But anyways, so that is how it is today.
I have a follow-up question. If a promoter who has defaulted is now allowed to bid, do you think an exception should be made to the 6 EOIs, as you're saying that maximization of returns is the goal?
No, of course. But then the IBC code must be changed. The whole law must be approved, because today, as I said, just for the sake of repetition, that if the law says that a defaulting promoter is not permitted to participate, then should not be allowed to participate. Just by selling their shares, if some defaulting promoter becomes eligible, this is, spirit of law, this is not fair.
But
that's
they were passive investors, right? So they were not active participants.
So when they raised the money, when they issued the bonds, at that time they were the promoters. They said that somebody was the promoter. And then you, whether passive or active, who decides whether I am passive or active? How do you decide? If I am a promoter, I am a promoter, right? So that's how it is.
Why did you pull out of partner with anyone for the SR Steel?
We are not there.
No, with anyone who's already
No, we are not there.
So do you agree with the notion that if the creditors are getting more amount, even if the bidder is coming at the last moment, or when the final talks have been over, so the creditors should go for it, because in the end the result, I mean...
Are you talking about Ultratech?
Ultratech as well as Bhushan Power.
So we direct. No. So see, once you have, once the rules are defined, that the highest bidder only will be eligible, will be negotiated with. Then to come again and say that I will bid even higher than that, that's not fair.
That's why you pulled out of Bhushan Steel.
Yeah, I mean,
But do you agree that?
We lost.
Catch me.
We lost.
Why are you pushing me?
So what's your comment on Liberty's case with Bhushan Power?
No, so I have not studied Liberty's case. I have no idea. But my view is that once you have participated in the bid and you have lost,
What about Monet's part?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, then interesting conversation coming in there from Mr. Sajjan Jindal. He's not mixing his words. He's saying that defaulting promoter should not get a backdoor entry, irrespective of what the case is. He's always been quite vocal about that, and rightly so. He's backing himself up. He's saying a defaulting promoter should not participate, and that refers to a whole host of cases where a question mark has been raised over there. He's also saying that in fact he was interested in SR Steel, but the COC, that's a committee of creditors, they have said no, you cannot provide a bid because it will take a longer time. He's saying I don't require longer time, I'm ready to participate, but he's saying that they have disallowed it and he's okay with that. And most importantly,
maintaining the sanctity of the entire insolvency and bankruptcy practice.
And the last few days, Rima, my weekends are, I reach out to a lot of these steel guys, a lot of people who are involved in this process. And there was a rumor that JSW Steel is going to back one of the existing bidders for SR Steel. He's come on camera and he's clarifying, no, I'm not going to be doing that as well. And I think that's the most important part of this entire, conversation that we had, because that rumor was getting very, very strong. When SR Steel is up for grabs, will JSW Steel come in through one of the bidders? And he's clarified that's clearly not happening. And he's saying it openly that I really wanted Bhushan Steel, but unfortunately Tata Steel went ahead and they bid more aggressively, and he's fine with that as well. So interesting conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Freewheeling conversation there. Absolutely. But let's get in the early rates from the European markets. The last two sessions have been rough for global equities. But this morning, we're staring at a recovery across the Asian markets, and Europe too has opened higher. So the CAC is a gain of about 0.25%, while the FTSE has opened up nearly 0.1%. We'll let the rates settle in and keep you updated on that. In the meanwhile, let's invite Ashwini Gujral and Prakash Gaba on the show now. Ashwini, afternoon, after weakness in the last few days, today at least the markets have stopped falling. The Nifty is at that 10,000 level. How do you read the tea leaves?
See, I think CNBC Global was showing some reports that China and US are negotiating. So that being the case, the chances of a global sort of a short covering increases. So that way, possibly this short covering could extend a bit more. Anyway, the market was a little oversold, and particularly today, banks are outperforming. So maybe good day to try out a long position now. We were short from the morning, but obviously this sort of news leads to short covering. My sense is as Europe opens, more short covering may happen now. Whether something comes out of this negotiation or not, but at least everybody is oversold, so anything positive should lead to a rally. Having said that, I think on individual stocks, Chennai Petro remains a sell with a stop of 317, target of 302. UBL is a sell with a stop of 935, target of 900. And Balkrishna Industries a buy with a stop of 1070, target of 1135.
Ashwini, if you're going long on the Nifty, where should the stop loss come in at?
See, basically 99.60, 99.70, which is today and Friday's low, that should work as a stop. But I think the bigger move, because this is short covering, may happen on the banks. And out there, Yes Bank particularly looks good, which is up almost 4%. So that's something people can look at.
Okay, even technically, Edelweiss was expecting a short covering bounce. They've indicated that the net FII index futures short positions is at historical levels of nearly 5,900 crores. And historically, around the 5,000 net short mark by the FIIs at the index level, the Nifty has witnessed an interim bounce back on the back of short covering. And considering the Nifty's lost in excess of 10% in the last many trading sessions, at least Edelweiss said there was a possibility of a short covering bounce, which could take the Nifty higher to levels of maybe 10,000.
Rima, just to simplify that data, normally the FI short positions, they are at around 50% at best. Now, this time around, the shorts on the index futures have gone to 67%. That's at the start of today, 63% approximately. The longs have come down to around 37%. When we started the series, the FIs on the index futures, the long positions were more than 55%. Okay. So from 55%, the long positions came down to around 37%, and the short positions have increased to 63% or thereabouts. And that's why they're expecting a bit of a short covering bounce. If things go right, then you'll see a massive short squeeze, is what they're saying. And I think they were mentioning a 300, 400 point bounce from these levels as well. But we have Prakash Gaba with us as well in the studio. Well, Prakash, your trade on the Nifty and a couple of picks you have for us?
Nifty 10,000 seems to be some kind of a psychological support sometimes, but the move that I see now is more of a short covering up move. I don't see strength, but more of a short covering up move. If the move extends, possible target in the Nifty could be in the region of 10,030, 35 zones, and if it still extends, maybe 10,070 by tomorrow. But that still is a short covering up move. In fact, Bank Nifty had a target of 23,900. That's achieved. If it extends, possible target on the upside, maybe around 50 more points or so. But still is a short covering up move. However, I have two stocks, both on the long side. JSW Steel is looking good to me. Possible target on the upside on JSW Steel would be around 296 zones, stop below 285. And LIC Housing is also looking good to me. Possible target on the upside on LIC Housing is around 550 zones, stop below 520.
Select mid-caps are doing quite well. The Nifty has moved to the high point of the day, by the way. We're holding with a gain of around 15 points. And after the kind of drubbing we've seen on the Nifty, well, 15 points in the green, we'll take that. The Nifty has recovered more than 45 points from the low point of the day. The Nifty Bank is up nearly around 200 points. And from the mid-cap space, Sonal's telling us, keep an eye out on Suntech Realty as well. That stock's up nearly around 4% and volumes picking up on that one as well. So keep an eye out on that stock. Well, moving on, but Syngene International signed an R&D agreement with GSK. Well, Jonathan Hunt, the CEO of Syngene International, joins us on the phone line. Hi, Jonathan. Thanks so much for joining in. Well, if you could give us a few more details, Jonathan, in terms of this R&D agreement. What are the scope of business over here? What are the drugs that are covered under this particular agreement?
Sure, yeah, that'll be a pleasure. I mean, it's clearly something we're very excited about, and I think really quite proud to be adding a company with GSK's scientific background and credentials to what's a growing list of strategic partners for us here at Syngene. So very happy about that. It's a discovery research partnership that we've entered into. Our scientists will work with their scientists globally to try and help Glaxo GSK accelerate their research projects and really bring forward new medicines for patients. So it's in that discovery space, research scientists and laboratories really looking for those next new breakthroughs in innovative medicine so they can then go forward into that next phase of clinical testing. Multi-year agreement, which sort of reflects the nature of the work we're doing. But really it's in those areas of chemical synthesis, medicinal chemistry, computational chemistry that we're going to be working with their global scientific organization.
Hi, Jonathan. Good afternoon. So this would be a how many year agreement that you've gotten into with GSK? And if you could give us some details about the drug pipeline, which you guys would be researching on.
Sure. Let me sort of clarify a little bit about that. It's not a specific drug pipeline in the sense that we will be developing candidates and then transferring them. It's really supporting GSK in what is already their research areas of focus. So some of it is a bit more fundamental science. It precedes that piece where you've got a drug pipeline. And it's about working together to accelerate the rate at which they take their own pipeline. As you know from Syngene's business model, we're not a drug company. We're not a drug development company in the sense that we have our own pipeline. We're always working on our clients' intellectual property, helping them take theirs forward. So the specifics of, you can understand the specifics of the research project is something that sits with GSK, and they consider that, I think, in the main to be commercially sensitive and proprietary. But that's the nature of the work we'll be doing with them. In terms of the deal construct, it's multi-year. The specific terms are not actually being disclosed. They're commercially sensitive. But I think what it'll do, it'll roll over time. So as we get initially through that first period, I think it'll probably take us 12 months to 18 months to get up to full operational capacity and actually have a number of projects on the go. Well, I'd expect it to sort of turn into a more like an annual renewal type relationship with them.
Well, the street likes this development. The stock is moving higher, now up close to about 4.5%, Jonathan, as we speak. There have been a lot of strategic partnerships, as you indicated. Right now, it's with GSK. Last quarter, you had with Bristol Myers as well. Any more in the pipeline? Oh,
I hope so. I mean, clearly it's not.
Are you in talks with any more collaborations?
Oh, always and every day. I mean, it's a fundamental nature of our business. If there's something to be said, I'm sure we'll disclose it as we have done with this today. But I am happy with the progress we're making with those more strategic partnerships. I mean, we're best known, I think, for the relationships we have with BMS, with Amgen, with Baxter. It's a real privilege to be adding an organization of GSK's quality to that roster. And underpinning that, we work with 8 of the top 10 16 of the top 20 biotech and pharma companies in the world, and we're up to sort of 300 or so active clients. So we're making good progress on broadening the reach that Syngene has and becoming much better known with those Western clients.
Right. Right. Jonathan, just shifting focus a bit, I remember the last time you joined us, we were talking about expanding various facilities. If you could give us a roadmap of that, and when exactly could we see those expansions coming on stream?
Yeah, I think you're actually seeing some of that now. I think the last time we talked, we discussed around our biologics capability, the new innovative manufacturing infrastructure we put in. That's up and running. So this quarter, so as we come into next month's quarter end, and we're doing all of the usual street communications around that. You should be able to see for the first time that that's up and operational. Similarly, from the build point of view, making good progress with the commercial API project over in Mangalore, but that's still very much at the building stage, literally groundbreaking and putting in footings and pilings and all of that sort of building thing. But they're progressing well, and I think formulations was the other area we'd indicated over the last fiscal year that we were stepping up. It's all coming on stream, so it's ready and available now to serve clients.
When will you get the final settlement of the insurance claim of the facility which had caught fire?
I don't have a date in mind, but I think, as we said at the last quarter's reporting, that's all going perfectly well into plan. So the insurance companies are being very supportive, and I don't see any issue there. It's just a matter of running through the process.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for joining in. That's the word from Syngene International. And KEC is back some large orders, 2,400 crores.
For the crude oil prices that we, of course, have been following, a 6% gain in the previous week, and we are trading or holding 70 even at this point in time. While, of course, there are geopolitical tensions, it's also about the Saudi energy minister's statements where he says that the agreed output cuts can get into 2019 as well. And that clearly is adding premium to the prices. The reason that you have seen a bit of a red come on your screens clearly is because of the concerns or the global trade tensions that's weighing onto this space as well. But there is a lot of impact that you have seen come in for the Indian prices. There is yet again a surge in the Mumbai petrol prices. It's a new 4-year highs that we are hitting there. Remember, the import bill for the month of Feb had already surged by 28% to $80 billion. And that, of course, is expected to go higher for the month of March, considering that the prices now are holding around $70 per barrel. Also, if you look at the Indian demand in 2017 was at 4.68 million barrels. The IEA estimates that to increase by 4.98 million barrels for this year now. So everywhere that you see in the Indian context, we are looking at a higher demand, higher import bill and higher prices as well, is how the higher crude oil prices at 70 are going to impact us here. But Aurobindo Ghai now joins us with his sense on where the prices could be headed from here. Aurobindo, hi, welcome. If you look at the Goldman Sachs and the Morgan Stanley report, they expect the crude oil prices to trade or surge between $75 to $82 per barrel by the third quarter of this year. What is your sense? Are you equally bullish on those prices?
Well, I'm sure we are talking about the Brent oil, which has surpassed $70 now. So the possibilities of moving to those levels cannot be ruled out. So I'm sure we'll continue to hold a bullish outlook in the medium term. One point I would like to say is that since the fundamental factors have started changing it, and the prices also have moved into a new base price, or rather I would say new normal price zone. So I think achieving $75 kind of target in the medium term cannot be ruled out. So I continue to hold that bullish outlook. And for WTI, since we have crossed $66 around, we are seeing a bit of correction this morning. I think it is just a temporary loss in the prices, but then overall trend remains bullish for WTI as well. So a band of 64 to 69 also for the WTI can be targeted in the short to medium term.
Aurobindo, a couple of another factors, of course, that need attention also is one, of course, the U.S. rig count, which continues to increase. We also are looking at the U.S. demand, which is up by 1 million barrels per day year-on-year basis. So that, of course, is about U.S. But on the other side, Chinese have launched crude futures today, the yuan denominated, and that surged by 6% on the first day or the first hour of its trade itself. How would you look at both of these factors, and what would you want to latch on to really?
I'm sure Chinese coming up with a crude futures contract or derivatives contract is definitely an welcoming phase. So I think that is good for the market.
Asian markets,
yeah, special markets, for Asian markets especially. And broadly, it is looking positive for the markets.